What's up guys, Clark here, and in this video we're deep diving into shadow work. You ever been frustrated? Like, you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. You don't stand up for yourself, you get walked all over like you said you were done with. Bad habits that you can't seem to break. You're like, dude, I thought last time was the last time. Well, if you've ever felt like a puppet getting pulled by invisible strings, the marionette hand is your shadow. And that's what we're talking about in this video. I wanna go over shadow work. We'll talk about what it is in real simple, practical terms, how it's affecting you, what it'll show up as, and then ultimately how to fix it with 5 simple questions I got for you at the end. Also, if you dig this video, I'll link down below to our free guide on shadow work, 100% free for hopping on our newsletter, and you can get that at any time during or after this video. Now you might be like, well, how does this shadow actually affect me in my life today? This is the easiest way I know how to break down the subject so you can visually see it. I think that's useful for you. Red is bad, green is good. +1, -1. You ever notice in life, you're going through it, and in most areas, you make a little bit of progress, and then it's like, boom, something happens and wipes it out. This could be you get a bonus at work, and then boom, an unexpected bill comes and wipes it out. Or you have money come in and then you find ways to spend it. Or you're making a little progress in self-improvement and then boom, these self-destructive habits come back. You're in a relationship, things are going really well, and then boom, one fight wipes out 3 weeks of progress and you feel like you guys can't progress. Anything you're doing that self-sabotages you, anything you're doing that feels self-destructive, a lot of this is coming and stemming from a shadow self that you have and you're carrying around. I would define your shadow, anything you can't describe as I. Something you feel, but you don't identify with. Usually this is suppressed and repressed from childhood. Okay, when you go work with a therapist, they're obsessed with their childhood because that's where a lot of this stems from. As a kid, you're just trying to survive. You don't consciously understand what's going on around you, but your subconscious is soaking in every experience, everything people say, like a giant sponge. A lot of what we develop is a survival strategy. This doesn't necessarily mean, you are paranoid for your physical safety as much as emotional safety. How do I fit in with my family? What's my role? Maybe you fell into the people pleaser role, and if you can make everyone else around you happy, then all is good. Maybe someone was overbearing and told you what to do, and your survival mechanism was to rebel, and now you have authority issues that come out in your job later on. And we could get really, philosophical with this, but practically there's stuff that happened in your childhood that affect you now. And all of that we don't really consciously understand where it came from, it's still showing up today. That is what your shadow is. Anything you can't directly express as I. I just want to lay it out what you'll feel when your shadow is out of balance versus when it's in balance. So here we go. Let's start with when it's out of balance, what you will feel. You'll feel triggered, where you're easily annoyed, you're jealous, you're envious of people around you, and you're not really sure why. Things feel heavy, things feel kind of negative. You're repeating loops. So if you find yourself falling into the same bad habits or the same types of relationships, a lot of what shows up in relationships with these loops are from your shadow self. If they don't ever get resolved, it's just gonna be new day, same story in the future. Overreactions, okay? If you find yourself getting really angry, being in a victim loop, things are never our fault. It's always someone else to blame. And if we never take responsibility for our life, or if we can label everything that's wrong with us and make it this goal to fix, or this is why I'm the way I am, it's this label's fault, that's why I can't build a business, find a relationship, make money, I'm stuck because of this label, that right there is a wounded shadow or just a false belief, all right? I don't want to give the impression that everything is always this deep-seated childhood drama. Oftentimes it can go back there, but your shadow can also be as recent as the last relationship, the last boss who was mean to you, something you see online that implants in your subconscious, things like that as well. Now you might be like, well, Clark, what happens when it's in balance? And here's what you might expect to feel after you start doing some of the shadow work or working on this with someone, with yourself. Self-acceptance. This is essentially the goal here. I've said in other videos, there's self-improvement, the greens, right, of that oscillation chart, but there's also self-acceptance, the reds, that sometimes the goal, a lot of times, is not to change yourself. It's to realize you were never broken in the first place. And this self-acceptance, when you can look at your flaws and accept them without shame, I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't be this person. Shame or guilt? Guilt is more about what you did, shame is about who you are. Those are some of the lowest emotions we can feel that suck down our whole life. You look at any bad habits, a lot of the damage from these bad habits is not even the habit that you're doing, but the secondary effects of the shame and the guilt from them that bury into your subconscious now about who you are. This guilt. I drank, I have a drinking problem. I'm just a, washed up alcoholic, so I might as well keep drinking, right? And this cycle perpetuates when we can't accept ourselves. That's what the shadow is. It's this, I can't accept that. That is too shameful, that's too unbearable. So anything there's shame or guilt around is a lack of self-acceptance, and that's where your shadow's showing up and really sabotaging it. Next one, you'll have an emotional range. You can feel things like anger, sadness, even envy, and not get consumed by it or have it control you. We have this emotional range. Some people call this the map of consciousness if you look at David Hawkins' work, but this is intuitive in us all. At the bottom, we spoke about, we have shame and guilt, and then we start getting into more neutral emotions like courage, willingness, neutrality, before we get some of the higher ones, love, acceptance, and freedom. The goal is not to only feel the top parts of that scale. The goal is to allow yourself to feel the full range without judgment. Some people who are on antidepressants close to me, they got off of them because they wanted to cry and feel the sadness and grief at their father's funeral. They didn't like how they numbed out, because the human experience, you're supposed to feel it all. It's the whole range in the scale. It's not just this limited sliver, because to the degree you only feel a limited sliver, well, there's no contrast. So that sliver loses all its meaning. Authenticity, all right, this one's important. You feel lighter, more honest, and less like you're hiding parts of yourself. That it's okay to be you, and not just this little sliver of who you are, not just this part that's limited to this range, but the full scale. Compassion, so instead of judging others, you see yourself in them, and this is really the truest form of envy, jealousy, or criticism, is that you're able to transmute it into compassion. Personal power. Say I. Old loops you can break. You can act with choice, not compulsion. And the last one, integration. This one is, I think, the best sign that your shadow's in check. Carl Jung had this model, 3 parts for simplifying here, where your shadow is anything you push down and push away. Like, that's not safe to feel. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to associate with that. That's your shadow. And then you have this persona, this ego up top. And this is like the mask we put on to operate at work or to operate through life. Those two things are a part of you, but neither of them are you. And this process of individuation is an integration of both of those, kind of pushing back to the middle. So this overheated at the park. We're gonna do part 2 with the questions in the studio. This might be the most important part of the video, and where most people get this concept of the shadow completely wrong. I got it wrong for years, believing this. You hear that your shadow's creating problems and self-sabotage, and now it becomes a goal to get rid of. Well, if I can just get rid of my shadow, then I'll be free to have relationships, money, and feel good. When you do that, you create this inner civil war. It's the good part of me and the bad part of me. The real solution is you transcend and include every single thing in the world as it goes up and evolves. It doesn't exclude the previous layer, it takes it with it and builds on top of it. In fact, tapping into your shadow is immensely beneficial for creativity. How much art comes out of this hurt place that people have tapped into? When you can transform it into something, that is beautiful. So this is shadow integration, not shadow elimination. That makes sense? Good on that? All right, cool. Now, question number 1 on the list. Whose success or behavior makes my eyes roll, and why? Alternatives: who do I secretly envy and judge? Who triggers me the most? And what does that say about me? Ooh, those are tough. And we're starting here when you're fresh, because I think this is the hardest one to do, because it's tapping into one of the principles of shadow work, projection. When we don't want to feel something, we project it onto other people. We say, oh, it's their problem, not mine. Look how much better I am than that person who's negative or critical or cringe or whatever. Projection can also be criticizing someone for the flaws that they have without even being aware that we've done that same thing in the past. That's why it's triggering. Wow, they're really short with their children. Oh, I've been short with my dog the other day who was acting up and I snapped at him. Man, that person's so cringe. Oh, I posted a video that had that same energy. Oh, it's really me who I'm seeing in that person as the mirror. Now, this isn't always true 100% of the time. Obviously, there's nuance. But look at celebrities or politicians or athletes, your family around you, your friends. Who triggers you and why? And then you ask the most enlightened question, how am I that? Oof, that one stings. You ever heard someone say, oh, I've met this person before. I've met this type of person before. We've met people like them in the past and we project that onto this person. And now we're not even dealing with reality of who this person is. We're projecting all the stuff from our past we bring along. I'll give you an example here. Early on in my entrepreneurial career, I was super egoic. I thought I knew everything because, I've been in business for 2 years. I've read all the books. But despite doing that, my results weren't that good. Maybe making $5 grand a month. So if you've been at something for 4 or 5 years, making $5 grand a month is really not good. I'd see these guys who were at it less than I was. How are they making 10 to 20 grand a month? How are they making $1 million? They must be a scammer. They must be taking a shortcut. They must be tapping into an audience that's less spiritually evolved. Right, you have all these justifications and rationalizations that go off, and all that's just a projection. Until I started going to some events and I started being open to, hey, what don't I know? It was only once I realized that I was jealous of them, that I was able to open myself to what I could learn from them. I started hanging around more people instead of just isolating myself and thinking I knew it all and I was, the chosen one. And you realize when you're friends with them, competition's made up and that's how you level up. There's a good saying, name it to tame it. When you just are aware of something and you name it, it now stops being this scary thing that's ominous and you're not sure what it is and it could attack you at any moment. You label it. You're like, oh, it's defensiveness. Oh, I'm being reactive. Oh, I'm viewing that person as that boss that I didn't get along with and who belittled me. Real quick, if you want a place to do shadow work long term, the best way is keeping a journal. It's the #1 tool I've used to transform my life, and I know it has the potential to do the same for you. We have a program that shows you the entire system step by step, even comes with our black book of shadow work questions as a bonus. I'll put the link below to learn more. Now here's question number 2. Let's go practical for the second question. This one is you're gonna love, because if you ask this, your life will get better. If I stepped outside of myself, what is the obvious advice I would give? So think of something in your life that's got a little tension, something you wish were a little different, or maybe an internal block that you have. How would someone looking at your situation from the outside, what would they tell you to do? Because it's easy to give advice, it's hard to take it. You ever had a friend come to you with a relationship problem and you're like, dude, you just boom, 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 it's easy. Well, I don't know what you're so worried about. Maybe a family member struggling with employment, just go to a trade school, just get another degree, just do A, B, C, quit your job, go find another. Man, when it's us, we personalize it and it's really hard. So some of the best shadow work you can do is to just push pause on all your internal emotions and feelings about the thing and look at it from a third-party perspective. You do that with anything, that is great shadow work because we get so close to it and it means so much to us and that can all be fine. But when you just look objectively from a third-party outsider perspective at anything in your life, that's when you start seeing new possibilities. Awareness is 80% of the transformation. It really is. When we're talking shadow work, if you just remember awareness is 80%, that's the real meat and potatoes. I was journaling on this actually earlier. I think there's 3 levels of awareness. Level 1, awareness that it's happening. 2, awareness that it's happened in the past. But the 3rd layer, I think, is the one that if you can get to, is what we're all striving to be. And that is awareness that it's happening in the moment. When you are aware that you're triggered by something or the feelings as they're happening to you, instead of just post the fact, like when you're removed from the situation, but like when you're in it, when you're having the difficult conversation and you're in the moment, if you're aware of what you're feeling, that allows the door to be open to non-reactivity. So many people feel emotions and they think it's true. Not always the case. That's emotional reasoning, cognitive distortion if you look at CBT. Not every emotion you have is true. In the moment, it feels true, but you ever been removed from a situation, you're like, ah, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to act that way. I shouldn't have acted that way. So if you have awareness of your emotions in the moment, that's really where this inner work starts to show. Number 3, this question is one of my favorites, and that is, what is a piece of feedback I've heard from multiple people to me? There's a saying, if it smells like shit, walk away. But if everywhere you go smells like shit, check your shoe. I'll give you a personal anecdote here. I know someone who always has these falling outs. Can you believe this person talked to me this way? You know, you hear it once, you're like, wow, that's random. But then a couple months later, it's a falling out with one of their best friends. And then a year from now, it's a falling out with someone at the counter or their work or their job. And then you start realizing what the pattern really is, that this person maybe isn't the easiest to be with. So flip that, and what's a piece of advice you've heard multiple times? What's the truth behind it? Is there a truth behind it? You see this play out now with labels. People are obsessed with labels. I worry that they box us in to this limited identity, and then they become this protection mechanism, this little box we put around, and anyone who enters in and challenges that is crossing a boundary or bringing up trauma. Anything that triggers you, instead of hiding and saying, oh, I can't go there, ask why. And the amount you're able to dig down and go and excavate some of these triggers, well, now you're actually able to not be triggered by things. There's something called exposure therapy. It takes guts to do, and it's hard and uncomfortable. When we prioritize comfort more than growth, we're never gonna grow. We're just gonna stay stuck. So if any of this video is uncomfortable or any of this shadow work is uncomfortable or feels awkward, like that's the point. If shadow work doesn't feel a little uncomfortable and triggering, you're doing it wrong. Question number 4. This one is juicy. What's a story I keep repeating about the way I am? Alternative, if you had to finish the sentence, I'm the kind of person who blank, what would come up for you? This is hitting at something I call your core stories. Now, we have tons of stories about who we are growing up, in relationships, at work. It's our identity. Our identity is just a collection of stories. And it's almost like they're these little shortcuts that you hit, boom, and it fires off these pathways, beliefs, emotions, thoughts, and habits. That's how language was developed. That's culture. Everything is stored in this nice little collection, this folder of a story. And one story can set off a cascade of beliefs and emotions and triggers. You have thousands of stories about who you are and your beliefs and stuff, but there's really like 3 to 5 key pivotal ones that control 80% of what we do. And all these little stories feed into those. These 3 to 5 are usually rooted in childhood or how you were parented, relationship dynamics with your mom or dad, really tough things that happened to you in the past, right? Any key moments or phases in your life. Maybe you went to college and there's a story that overarches your college experience. Maybe you started a business and there's a core story about how you got screwed over by this bad business deal and you'll never be the same or recover. Or how maybe it went really well and then it went away and you have this story, oh, I can never get back to that version. I'm a has-been. Would have gone pro if I didn't tear my Achilles. They're the one that got away. So what are the core stories that are influencing your life? And often these are subconscious. So you sit down, you ask this question, a couple might come out, but again, throughout the week, keep a note in your log, and this as an intention that you're gonna find what your core story is. We have one more question. Where in my life am I avoiding fully being seen? Alternative, what habits am I hiding out with? You know, I talk about this a lot on the channel, but one of the habits I hid behind for the longest time was drinking. I mean, I loved drinking. I really did. I mean, I started drinking super young. I toured in a band in my 20s, so on the road. And I felt like it was great. It loosened me up. I could talk to people. But then it started becoming something I did nightly alone, and I realized there was a lot of warning signs. Yeah, this is not good for me. Drinking became a way I was able to hide out, and instead of dealing with big decisions, like, hey, should I stay in this relationship or dip? Oh, just take a drink and now I don't think about it and, you know, everything's good. Hey, how you doing? Great. Am I in the right vehicle with business? Just take a drink and, oh yeah, it'll be fine. You know, I'll get through it. Just give it another week. Going into a party and feeling like, oh man, I don't want to be here. Are these really the people I surround myself with? Take a drink and, oh, we're all having fun. We're all friends here, yeah. This question's loaded, but it's what parts of you are you hiding with? A lot of times these are habits or addictions. So disassociating, right? Do we even stare at our screens, doom scrolling, and watch other people having experiences instead of having our own? Do we use substances like drinking or weed or drugs to change our state because we don't like this discomfort on average that we feel in our normal state? Do we numb ourselves with food because that gives us something to look forward to? Or it's a protection mechanism. If we put on tons of weight, people don't find us desirable, and last time we got hurt in a relationship, it really sucked. So where am I avoiding being fully seen? Hey, I just want to say, if you made it to the end of this video, good for you, because this is heavy. A lot of people dip early on. The second thing I'll say, please write these down, go back through and like write them down and try them out, do them. Or take these, and if you're working with a therapist or coach, process through this with someone. Or hey, talk this through with your partner or best friend if you have one. Call them up, say, hey, I want to do something a little wacky. You down to do this? Remember, there's a free guide in the link below if you hop on our newsletter, the shadow work questions with some more alternatives and ones we didn't cover in this video. Smash the like button. What I'll do right here is link up this video on toxic shame. This is the why behind the last couple questions we were talking about. Continues our conversation. You'll love it. It's right there. Thanks so much for being here. Remember to do hard things, bet on yourself, make your future self proud. Peace.